Hello and welcome back to the channel. So today is like an introductory video of a little series I've got coming out, and it's going to be called Trappist Sundays. Now the idea is I'm going to review one Trappist beer a week on a Sunday, and the reason I've done that is the Trappist beers, majority of them are quite high ABV, and I thought one a week it'd be quite nice, something for me to look forward to and something for me to savour and enjoy rather than doing a few. They're not session beers, they're not intended to be session beers, they're basically brewed and intended to be enjoyed and savour. So for one a week on a Sunday I'll release a Trappist beer review. So that's the idea. So Trappist Sundays is going to be the series. Now a little bit of background. So Trappist is not a style of beer. So someone says Trappist beer, it's not a style. With what Trappist beers, within Trappist beers, there's the quads, which is the highest ABV you could go for. And then more traditionally, there was the, what you call it a single, but the actual name that is given to it is an enkel. So an enkel could be a blonde beer, could be known as a Patters beer, which is basically, the Patters beer is the beers that the monks would brew for their own consumption. So there's not many places that you can get a Patters beer from, because a lot of the monks brew that just for their own consumption. Then you've got the double, or double, which is a dark beer. It's made with more like candy sugar, so dark candy sugar or syrup, just to give it that colour and the taste, and that's normally about 7% ABV. Then you have the triple. Triples generally blonde or light coloured, golden coloured, and they're more like 9% beers. So you have the enkel, which is a single, then you have a double, then you have the triple, and some quads. They've also got another name for the quad. I don't know if I've wrote that down. Yeah, so basically quads are strong seasonal beers, up to 14% ABV, malty, dark, and also known as Grand Cru, which I think just means strong special beer. So they're the actual styles. So you can have these styles in Abbey beers. Like that's totally different. I'm not going to go down that route in a moment. That'll be another series in the future. But the Trappist beer basically have styles within it. So the Trappist is basically monks and nuns that follow, and I'll make sure I get this right. A Trappist, just so I've got this right, officially known as the Order of Cistercians of the Strict Observance. Okay, they follow the rule of Saint Benedict and have communities of both monks and nuns that are known as Trappists and Trappistines. They are named after La Trappe Abbey, the monastery from which the movement and religious order originated. So Trappist isn't a beer. Trappist is the religion, basically. It's our order. So talking now, a good couple of 100 years ago, they brewed for themselves. So they're like the original homebrewers, and basically the monks and the nuns brewed for themselves. And then they had visitors, and visitors tasted the beers, and it was like, wow, we want to have some of this beer. So then it came to light that actually, let's sell this beer, and they can make money back and put it back into their monastery and also the surrounding area. So like a charity, for like things that's just going on within their communities. So that's how it came about. They started to sell it. Moving on, in a little bit of history in this book of mine tells me, it's got like a timeline of things. Let me just put my glasses on. That's better. Timeline of the Trappist, basically, and it's Trappist Key Dates and Trappist and Monastery Brewing. So 530, the Rule of Saint Benedict is written, and to this day remains the reason why monks brew and sell beer. 750, Charlemagne and his followers promote the Benedictine way of life and monastery brewing. 820, the St. Gall Monastery Brewery plan is drawn, providing a blueprint for other monasteries. 1098, the Order of the Cistercians is founded, promoting a stricter set of rules than the Benedictines. 1132, Cistercian monks resurrect the Orville Monastery, abandoned by the Benedictine Order. So Orville is a beer, one of theirs, that one. 1464, Cistercian monks take over an abbey at Rochefort, previously occupied by nuns. And we have the Rochefort. Seeking a purer living of the rule of Saint Benedict, a stricter order of Cistercians begins in Le Trappe, and one of these ones here is this one, Le Trappe. See, it's all coming together. Little story. Becoming known as Trappists. The French revolutionary government suppresses all monasteries, confiscating their property in 1790. In 1802, monks fleeing France with the idea of heading to America found a Trappist monastery at Westmalle. And there you go. There's Westmalle. It's a little bit of a walk down the Belgian Trappist, this. 1830, Belgium declares its independence from the Netherlands. 1836, monks at Westmalle began brewing. There's that Westmalle beer. 1839, brewing begins at West Vleteren, established as a monastery 5 years earlier. West Vleteren is a really difficult Belgian Trappist beer to get hold of. Basically, you have to go knock on the door or go to like the cafe place where they are to get their beer. It's difficult to get hold of and it's difficult to buy. So West Vleteren, yeah, we'll talk about that a little bit more. 1844, monks from Westmalle start a monastery at Achel. And Achel is it one here at the very front. Again, bit of a story behind the Achel one. What was that year? That was 1844. 1850, monks from West Vleteren found the abbey at Chimay, sat at the front. And in 1862, start brewing beer and selling it to surrounding community, as I mentioned. 1899, Rochefort resumes brewing 12 years after monks from Achel re-established the abandoned monastery. We've already mentioned Rochefort and Achel. 1919, the government prohibits the sale of spirits in bars and other public places, helping create demand for stronger beers. So, like I was saying before, these beers are strong, but it was then when it happened in 1919, it created a demand for stronger beers. So all the Trappists were brewing stronger beers, and it just started to roll and then take on, and it was like everyone wanted the stronger beers in Belgium. 1922, Westmalle begins using a dark sugar syrup, also called candy sugar, in Westmalle Double, which is that beer. So that beer will sort of like revolutionise the candy sugar, and that was in 1922. Basically, making the beer stronger without bloating its body. So the sugar would increase the alcohol, but wouldn't add any body. It'd actually thin the body down. 1925, Chimay trademarks Abbey d'Escourmont, the first Trappist trademark. That's Chimay again at front. 1932, Orville was rebuilt. In 1926, resumes brewing with a brand new recipe. A lot of the monasteries were damaged during the French Revolution and also during World War I and World War II. A lot of them were destroyed, so they had to rebuild them. And all the monasteries helped each other that way. And a lot of the money that was making was going back into doing that as well. 1934, Westmalle completes construction of a modern brewery, begins selling Westmalle Triple and Westmalle, the first pale Trappist. I haven't got Westmalle Triple here, but that's the first pale Trappist beer, Westmalle Triple. And then it goes on to 1946. The abbot of West Vleteren decides to de-emphasise brewing, and a deal is struck to have St. Sixtus beer brew under contract. So St. Sixtus, you probably had their beers. I think they're under. I'll try and remember, but they brewed for West Vleteren for a long while, and I can't remember, it's one of their beers, because West Vletren's 12 was voted the best beer in the world at one point. But the first brewer, the St. Sixtus beer, also did a version of that, and they say it's very similar, and they still sell it now. If I remember it, I'll put some up here for you. 1948, Father Theodore isolates a famous Chimay yeast, brews a famous Blue Grand Reserve as a Christmas beer. So, yeah, Father Theodore was Chimay. 1955, monks at Rochefort begin brewing Special, now called Rochefort 8, which I've got here. I've got Rochefort 6 there. The last new beer introduced by Rochefort. So that was the last beer they did, Rochefort. Last one they did. This book's a couple of years old now. And 1962, a trade court in Ghent rules that only Trappist monasteries can use the appellation Trappist and beer. Okay. 1992, West Vleteren, who went to St. Sixtus Beer, decided then they ended the 46-year contract with him, and St. Bernados, it's St. Bernados, there you go, that's the beer. St. Bernados, I think St. Bernados 10 is basically the same as the West Vleteren 12. St. Bernados, I know you can get hold of that. And resumes control over all its beer it sells. St. Bernados begins selling beers under its own name. And then 1998, Achel, they resumed brewing as well back in 1998 after a long spell. So that's up until then. But things have changed since as well. Especially, well, I can tell you now, the International Trappist Association, which is, this, I don't know if the sign's a little small on there. I don't know if any of these have got a bigger sign. I'm looking for a little logo on a bottle. There we go. So if you can see that logo there. That's the International Trappist Association, and that basically says authentic Trappist product. So what happened was, commercial companies were trying to basically abusing the name Trappist Beers, and they were brewing beers and calling them Trappist. So I think it was the breweries at the time come together and they formed the International Trappist Association, and basically to use that name and logo on any merchandise that follow the following breweries or monasteries must observe the following. Products must be made within the walls of a Trappist abbey. So, first thing you've got to do, you have to brew it within the walls of the Trappist abbey. Second, the product must be made by or under supervision of the monastery community. So, the monks have got to either be involved in actually brewing or supervising the actual brew. And then the third one is largest part of the profit must be spent on social work. So there's three things you have to observe there to meet the standard for that logo. And that logo just basically says, yes, we're a Trappist beer. So that brings me on to Achel in 2021, January 2021. Basically, the last remaining monks moved to Westmalle, and no monks actually active in the Achel monastery. So they had to lose that logo. They could no longer be authentic Trappist products because they didn't have anyone actually active doing the stuff within the monastery. But they're still classed as a Trappist brewer because Westmalle, there, actually come over twice a week and supervise the brewing in Achel. So there's a brewery in Achel, and it's supervised by Westmalle Trappist. They're the monks, so it can still be a Trappist brewery, but because there's no monks living there, it can't be authentic Trappist logo. So a little bit confusing. When I do this beer, I'll go in more depth on that. Anything else to say to you there? There are currently 13 Trappist breweries. There were 14 until May 2022, and the fall guy here is this one, Spencer. Spencer ceased as a Trappist brewery in May 2022, and that is the first US Trappist brewery, and unfortunately they closed their brewery in May 2022. So that's probably a little bit hard to get hold of now. I mean, it is a Trappist beer. You can see it has the authentic logo on there, but unfortunately no longer to be. Until history tells you there that in another 50 years someone probably will get that brewery up and running again, and then it'll kick off again. But at the moment, there's only 13. Out of the 13, only 10 of them are allowed that logo on. The 3 that aren't is Akel, and the other one is, well, I just told about Akel because there's no monks actually living in the monastery. The other one is Cadena, which is in Spain. They've actually got no brewery within the monastery, so they brew off-site and they brew in Madrid, but the profits go back to that monastery, so they're still classed as a Trappist brewery because their monks are actually working off-site in another brewery, but all the profits are going back into that monastery. And the other one in France is Mont des Cats, and they brew at Chimay. So they brew at Chimay, and the profits go back to Mont des Cats. At the moment, Mont des Cats are working on the profits that are going back into it, of actually putting that into building an on-site brewery. Once they've got an on-site brewery and they're doing that beer, they will then get that label, and that product is a Trappist authentic product. So that's them 3. The other ones, so these in Belgium, there's 5 which do meet the criteria. The one that doesn't is Akel. So you've got Orville, you've got West Vleteren, you've got, what have we got in here? Westmalle, Chimay, Rochefort. Have I said all 5? I think I did say all 5. So we've got Orval, Chimay, Westmalle, Rochefort, and West Vleteren. They're the 5. Then 6 is Akel. So 6 Belgian Trappist breweries, but only one of them doesn't meet the criteria. In the Netherlands, there's 2, both meet criteria. One is Le Trappe, that's in Belgium. People think that's in Netherlands, people think that's a Belgian beer, but it's actually Netherlands. And the other one is Zundert. Then in Austria, we've got Stiff Engelsel. They're a Trappist brewery in Austria. They've got the product mark. Italy, I've got one called Tre Fontaine. Not got that one yet. And also in England, this one here is Tint Meadow. So all in all, that's all the Trappist breweries that are around at the moment. Unfortunately, like I say, Spencer has just dropped off recently. So that's basically what it is. That's a little bit of history. I will, when I do the reviews, I'll give a little bit of history about each of these breweries. I just wanted to give you a bit of a back now about it. Now, West Vleteren is really difficult to get hold of. Like I say, you have to go there, knock on the door, buy the actual beer from them or in the cafe. And also, I'm going to look at sourcing the Zundert, Tre Fontaine, Mount des Cats, and the Cardina. Now, they could be quite difficult to get hold of, but I will source them. If I do, it'll just follow on this series. Now, the one that's really interesting for me is a West Vleteren. Now, I've had this book for a couple of years. It's good. Brew Like a Monk. I've read it. You can see where I put things in where I want to go back. And one of the things for the channel, which I'm looking forward to doing, if I can find it on here, it's just something that really interests me. And I thought, okay, so I can't get easily hold of West Vleteren beer, but in here, along with the history, we've got West Vleteren 8 recipe. So that's going to give me the opportunity to brew my version of West Vleteren 8, so my version of a Trappist style beer. It's obviously not a Trappist beer, it's going to be a Trappist style beer. So I will brew West Vleteren 8 and then give it a go. So that'll be a grain to glass Trappist style beer in this series as well. So it's just something. It's going to be me reviewing these, and then one's behind me. It's going to be on Sundays. It's going to be once a week, obviously, the Sunday once a week. And the thing that I'm going to add on to it as well, when I'm trying these beers, monks also make chocolate, cheese, bread. They do all sorts. So I'm thinking, when I try the beer, I'm not going to score them. I'm not going to do my triple Bs or anything like that. I'm just going to try them, see what I think of them, see what flavours I get from them. And I'm also going to try them with the lighter beers with some feta cheese, because that's what they recommend. Feta cheese is good with the lighter Trappist beers. And the darker beers, a strong chocolate. Also, cheddar cheese. So I'm going to do a mix of them. So I'm going to just do some tasting on its own, tasting with cheese and chocolate, and just see if it changes the flavour of the beers or changes the flavour of the chocolate, because it's just a couple of pairings which just say go really well with these. Like I said, they're more of a sit back, sip, relax and enjoy beer. Something you don't just, it's not a sessionable beer, it's something to enjoy and savour. So chocolate, cheese, and maybe my own sourdough bread. Just doing something that's going to see if it enhances or if it doesn't enhance. Or, I'll bring that to the Sundays as well. So hopefully you enjoyed that. The first video will be following this one in a week. So hopefully it's Sunday when you're watching this. Well, it'll be out on the Sunday. I'm going to say you're going to watch it on the Sunday. And then the first beer I'm going to be doing will be the English one. I'm going to do Tint Meadow. I'm English. It's the only UK English Trappist brewery. So I'm going to give that one a go and see what it's like. I'm going to possibly try some cheddar with that. I don't know yet. Okay, thank you for watching. Cheers, and I'll see you on the next one.